All right, everyone. Welcome to the 2-year, 70,000 mile review of my Model X Plaid. As far as we know, this is the highest mileage Model X Plaid in the world. I live in Southern California and I took delivery of this X Plaid in August of 2022. In that time since, I've driven this car on my daily commutes and on many road trips in the Western United States. My X Plaid has proven to be reliable and super fun to drive. And I've been driving for 30 years. In that time that I've been driving, I've owned more than 20 cars and have driven way more than 1 million miles combined. But with all that said, let me tell you all about what it's been like to live with this 1,020 horsepower beast of an SUV minivan thing, or whatever the heck this thing is. Okay, let's get to it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so I can keep making more videos. So first thing we're going to do is take a visual tour of the exterior and then the interior. This is Tesla's deep metallic blue color, and I do not have a PPF on this car. I do have a medium tint XPEL window film on all 4 windows, plus the rear hatch. Not too dark of a tint to get in trouble with law enforcement, but something to help reduce glare and reduce interior temperature. On the rear Falcon doors, I also have the interior shades, so that's why it looks a little bit darker out here when you're looking through. The front just has a medium tint. This car came with the factory 20-inch wheels, and I rode around in those for the first 40,000 miles. I then swapped on a set of 20-inch lightweight forged aluminum wheels in OEM size from Unplugged Performance, and I've been driving on those now for 30,000+ miles. The lug nuts are from Secret EV and they're super light forged titanium construction in the burnt titanium purple color. Aside from these, I have no other exterior mods. Let's talk more about wheels and tires. My Unplugged Performance wheel setup is a square setup with 275/45s front and rear. The original OEM tires were stagger setup with 265s up front and 275s in the rear, but those OEM Continental all-season tires were worn down to the cords in the rear by 30,000 miles. I replaced those OE tires with these Pirelli Scorpion Weatheractive tires, and they have lasted me 40,000 miles now and have plenty of tread life left, as you can see from here. I will be doing an update to these tires in a few weeks, so please go check out those videos, my tire videos. And again, remember to subscribe to my channel so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Now, when you're dealing with the startup EV manufacturers like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid, the vehicle delivery experience is always pretty important. So for the most part, the delivery center or delivery person in charge of your delivery does only a basic job of getting your vehicle cleaned up and inspected pre-delivery. Now, given the wide range of vehicle build quality and attention to detail from these startups, us owners really need to pay attention at the time of delivery and point out flaws to them so they can take care of them for you, actually, either during your delivery process or soon after you take possession. So let's talk about the exterior at delivery. I noticed a pretty sizable chip on the front bumper. Some of these exterior trim pieces, these right here, did not fit. It was not really aligned well. And just, generally not adhering well to the body. They were pretty severely misaligned to the point where it's kind of jutting out half a centimeter. You can still see that it's not perfect. So I flagged issues like this to Tesla during my initial delivery, and then we scheduled an appointment for me to return a few weeks to their service center, and they ended up addressing them with various degrees of success. The front bumper, they just replaced it outright. I'm not sure why they had to do an entire front bumper replacement when I just had a few hundred miles in my car at the time for just a chip. But maybe the chip was deep enough that it was more efficient for them to just replace the entire front bumper. Let me tell you about the trim pieces. You can see that these plastic trim for the Model X just don't really align that well. It's been this way since I took delivery. And what you're seeing here, it's actually a lot better than when it was new, when I took delivery, because of that service center appointment that I made. They actually did, somewhat decent job to clean it up a bit. But what you're seeing here is the result of the cleanup work. So you can just kind of imagine what it looked like when I took delivery of it and how misaligned it was. As I mentioned before, we had an issue with alignment of the rear Falcon wing doors, and that's on the driver's side right here. you can see here better now after they made the adjustments at my initial service center appointment. Now moving on to the rear. So I'm going to open the hatch right here. You see this trim piece, this plastic trim piece right there? So when I took delivery of this car, there's one there, and then there's one here. When I took delivery of this car, as soon as I opened the hatch for the first time, I happened to be standing right on this side, right here, right where I'm standing. I opened the hatch, I walked over here. As I was about to look around for delivery, this piece came and actually fell, hit me on the head, and bounced off. Well, it's just a plastic light piece, you know, it didn't hurt or anything like that, but I just thought it was actually pretty comical that upon delivery of my brand new 6-figure Tesla Model X Plaid, that the first time I popped the hatch, this plastic trim piece fell off and hit me on the head. The car had 18 miles or something like that on it at the time. So that obviously was not ideal. That trim piece right here and those other plastic trim pieces that I talked about, I flagged all those during my initial service and when I took delivery, and they took care of the initial service. However, about a week after they took care of this, it fell and hit me on the head again. And then that's when I noticed they just put double-sided tape on the inside. That wasn't very effective. So I actually kept this thing off. I tried to double-sided tape myself. It kept falling off. So I just kept it off for, like a year or so until I got rear-ended. And what happened was after I got rear-ended, I was stopped in traffic on the 5 freeway here in Southern California, sitting there, just totally stopped. Some idiot ran in the back of me, needed a new bumper, and I needed a bunch of trim panels for the upper hatch area. Took it to the Tesla Collision Center near me, and they actually, as part of their repair, they just went ahead and fixed that. So now it's been about a year since the repair, and that has held up well. So, Tesla Collision Service, I guess, somehow doing a better job than the factory and the Tesla Service Center. Okay, so that's delivery. Let's talk about what the exterior is like now. So, Tesla paint quality. What do I make of it? Well, it's not the worst that I've ever seen, but it's also not the best and falls far short of what you want from a premium car. Let's not even talk about a 6-figure car, but just even like a $50,000 car. You're expecting thicker paint and better paint quality than what the Model X comes with, or probably what any Tesla comes with. So not super happy. 70,000 miles in. As I said, I don't have PPF, and I generally actually don't put PPF on my car or cars. And this front bumper is pretty nicked up, or front hood and front bumper, pretty nicked up from rock chips and things like that. Again, I think that I'm not super worried about it, but just kind of pointing it out for the video. It's kind of par for the course when you have, Tesla's substandard paint quality, shall we say, and don't have a PPF and you're driving a lot of miles. This stuff tends to happen. Again, I'm not super worried about it. Just that, pointing out it doesn't really hold up as well as other car manufacturers. I've had Hondas, Toyotas, BMWs, Mercedes, right? Lexuses. Everything that I've ever had, Audi's, has had better paint quality than my Tesla. It's not the worst thing in the world. My first car was a Pontiac from the 1980s, and that had some horrific paint, and from the factory that also happened to be blue in color, almost actually kind of like this blue from the 80s. Anyways, this is the second worst painted car from the factory that I've ever had, so it's not all that bad. I mean, not quite as bad as a 1980s Pontiac. So there you go. All right, so let's move on to the interior. Well, before we move on to the interior here, check out this chip, this ding. This is the only one that I've gotten in 70,000+ miles here. Not too bad. I mean, it looks bad. That scratch there. 2 scratches, I guess, and a ding. Again, I see it every time. It's driver's side, walk up to the car. It's annoying, but what are you going to do? 70,000 miles in, after 2 years, I give zero cares about where I park, how I park it. I mean, I try to stay in between the lines, obviously, but you know, I don't care if it's a small space or not. I'm not going to go out of my way to park my car. But this is what you get, you know, some door dings every now and then. All right, let's move on to the interior. So I got the cream color interior, and it has held up really, really well. Overall, yeah, I try to keep it clean, detail it fairly regularly, every couple of months. Just detailed it just before this video. And yeah, as you can see, I mean, obviously, you know, there's some blue jeans stains over there, but it's not too bad. And again, overall, everything has held up really, really well. Let's look at the mats here. We'll open up the Falcon doors in a second. I went with these official Tesla rubber mats. These are actually the third set of mats that I've used. I bought one set from Weatheractive, and they didn't fit right. There was a curl lip over there towards the accelerator pedal, and it was just kind of dangerous. It was just kind of poking out towards the accelerator pedal. I've had a lot of WeatherTech rubber floor mats before, and for whatever reason, the ones for the Plaid just did not work out. So I had that set. I replaced it. WeatherTech, I took pictures. WeatherTech was kind enough to replace them for me. The second set, the replacement set they sent me, was better, but after, I don't know, maybe about 5,000 miles of driving or something like that, the issue came back, and it just kind of jutted inwards. I'll probably put up a picture here as just to show you what it looks like, or I'll insert a picture here. Okay, let's open up the Falcon wing doors over here. Getting into the rear of the car. So for whatever reason, probably because I guess I was standing here, the doors did not open up to its max height. So let's go ahead and use this opportunity. I've got a fob to close all the doors and then reopen it while I'm far enough away to see if it'll open up to its max height. Okay, let's close it. Now let's try that again. See how slow that is? This is unusual, but you definitely see this happen every now and then. So for whatever reason, it has decided that it does not like to open here in the middle of nowhere. Now, this issue happens. It happens every now and then, but it's fairly rare. Doesn't happen a lot, but as you can see, it will happen at some bad times for no reason. And I'm not entirely sure why it's doing that. I don't know if it's like the camera here that it's not seeing it. I don't know if it's like this camera over here. So let's just go ahead and wipe that a little bit, see if that helps. Let's give this another try. And if this doesn't work out well, I guess you're seeing things. This is part of the 2-year ownership review. Yeah, it's not going to work out. Look how slowly that thing is opening. That's not good. All right, we'll just leave it like that. Looks silly. Okay, what about the passenger Falcon wing door? Let's give that a try. Okay, beautiful. That's how it's supposed to open. There you go. So inexplicable. I cannot describe it, but it does happen. Again, it's really rare. I don't know, maybe like 100 door openings. You might encounter this issue like 5 times or something like that. But when it happens, as you can see with the driver's side Falcon wing door, it kind of just happens, and I don't know how to get rid of it. You drive around, I don't know, you know, and at some point it just kind of goes away. Next time you open, car's parked in a different spot, and it's fine, I guess. Okay, so anyways, again, Tesla mats in the rear as well. Everything's looking good. Lots, again, 70,000 plus miles. There's a couple of, things here and there to be expected, but not too bad, not too bad. Generally clean, in good shape. Let's go in, passenger side. Seats look much better here, obviously, just because, less wear and tear from less blue jeans being worn. I wear blue jeans all the time, so the driver's side definitely gets a little bit more stained with blue over there. Plastic trim, all this stuff has held up really well. The micro suede Alcantara, all of this looking good. I did put, like I mentioned at the exterior part, I did put these interior shades. These are official Tesla ones as well. They are also on the rear windows and the Falcon roof. So just to keep things a little bit extra cool over here. These hooks come in handy. I use them pretty regularly hauling jackets, clothes, right? You know, things like that. Otherwise, everything has held up pretty good. Oh, check that out. YouTube's seen this for the very first time. Wow, this is amazing. I never realized this. I've used the rears quite a bit, but you can see that it's a little warped because I just now realized after 71,000 miles, I never took that off. 2 years later, there you go. Some people probably don't like this. I understand that people don't like ripping these things off, but I do. And somehow after 2 years, 71,000 miles, I just noticed I didn't do that for the rear screen, even though I've used it quite a bit. Okay, we'll stash that over there. Let's go ahead and close this up and take a look at the trunk hatch area here. Well, we'll just leave this open. We'll close everything up at once. These have the back of the seats. I mean, I've used these quite a bit. Usually I roll around with the third row down like that. So I do use that quite a bit. Whoops, we have to go and move this. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. So I do use that quite a bit. I don't like that these aren't fully flat, and you can see, you know, over time, for whatever reason, these things kind of started jutting out. I guess because the clips, check that out. There's supposed to be those clips over there, and they're not clipped in. Well, I will deal with that later. There you go, YouTube. Looks like that's bent. Check that out. It's bent, it's broken. Okay, there you go. There's some wear and tear that you can see over there. This, for the sub trunk, just lots of exposed wires and things that prefer not to be there. A little bit dirty back here. This is also very cheap, just like a piece of carpeted plywood, essentially, with two trim pieces holding up there. But it is what it is. I appreciate the space. Again, even if that were not an issue right there, don't like that there's so much gap and just kind of, you know, not super tied together. I think it could be a lot better than this. But these are just minor annoyances. Even the Falcon wing door, it's just a minor annoyance. You know what my biggest issue with this car, the interior of this car, has been? I have some kind of crazy rattle. I have like a crazy rattle and squeak that I can't identify somewhere in the rear interior area that is squeaky every single time I drive the car. And it only happens within a certain range, speed range, probably when it's like between like 20 to 30 miles an hour or so. But when it's happening, it's constant. And it sounds like somebody went to Costco and bought, you know, one of those huge packs of water bottles, the plastic, you know, disposable water bottles with water inside. And you know how those things are like super squeaky when you move them around? It's like that. It's like somebody loaded up this car with a bunch of water bottles in its packaging, and it's just squeaking all over the place. That's what it sounds like when I'm driving around between 20 and 30 miles an hour. Oddly enough, you know, it doesn't happen every single time. There are some drives where it seems like it's fine, but that must just be road surfaces that I'm on. You know, I don't know, whatever the case is. Everybody points it out, you know, when they're riding this car. They're like, what is that squeak? Are you carrying water bottles around? Nope, I'm not carrying water bottles around. I just drive a Tesla, and I've got some weird squeaks. So there you go. That is pretty much the interior. Again, held up generally well. Lots of space. I'm not a biggest fan of the 6-seater setup. I really wish if they had the 7-seater, you know, where these were not the captain's chair, I would have preferred that. If the Plaid came in the 7-seat configuration like Model X is used to, I would have optioned that instead of these captain's chair. What I don't like about these, as much as like it's roomy over here, that empty space in the middle, it kind of sucks, you know, for my use case. There's just really just a lot of empty space. There's nowhere to, you know, to put cups and things like that because of the Falcon doors. You can see there's really no, like, you know, I mean, there's this cup holder here, but it's not the most convenient. And it just lacks storage, you know, all around back here without like something in the center section over there. So, and then, you know, what are you supposed to do with that, you know, with such a big missing area? So it's more of a minivan than anything else. But again, I do wish I would have had the 7-seater. Not bad if you have families and you have kids, you know, crawling around over here to try to get to the third row. The third row is small enough where you probably can't really fit 2 car seats. You could definitely fit 1 car seat back there comfortably. And if you have more than 1 car seat, you know, you could probably do like a 3 car seat configuration, right, for a child seat, you know, here, and then 1 in the back. But, you know, definitely, again, you do have that open space right there. So I'm not in love with that. We have relocated, as you can see, to the interior of the car because it is 91 degrees out here in Southern California today. It was super hot out there, and I wanted to get out of the heat and film the rest of this video. So here we go. We're going to talk now about the things that you really care about, the mechanical aspects of this car. So if we look here, again, we're looking at 71,209 miles right now. 2022 Model X Plaid, highest mileage Model X Plaid. Again, we're looking at 71,209 miles here. How has this car held up? Mechanically, it's been 100% sound. No issues whatsoever. I have not had to go to the service center for any mechanical issues at all. In fact, this car has been so durable, and reliable in those regards that even though these aren't mechanical things, I actually haven't even had to go in for wipers. Yeah, I know it's kind of crazy. Southern California, don't use the rain wipers out here that much. Everybody can joke about that. I do as well. But these wipers, over the course of 70,000 some miles, have been used. They've been used quite a bit. I've driven in snow, rain, all kinds of things that you can think of, slush, and they have been used. And they're still the originals, and they're still wiping pretty well, which is actually a surprise. I don't know that I've ever had wipers, don't need any kind of climate, last as long as these have. But yeah, absolutely no mechanical issues with this vehicle whatsoever. There's been a couple of times, maybe around like 5 or 6 times or something like that in total, where my display, the center display, and even maybe like 2 or 3 times the dash cluster here have disappeared on me. They've just wigged out, screens turned dark, and I've had to do the manual reset, reboot of the screens while I'm driving. And to do that, you just press and hold both the scroll wheel buttons. Press and hold them down. After like 3 seconds or so, both your screens will reboot itself. You could be driving while that's happening, and you could still continue on fine. It's a bit of a pain because with this vehicle, with the 2022, I guess 2021 Model S and 2022 and the Model X's, where they've done away with stalks, right? And so you've heard me complain about the lack of stalks in my previous videos. Buttons for turn signals makes 0 sense. 0 sense whatsoever. I do not understand for the life of me why you would get rid of stalks for buttons. They just don't work well. I'm not gonna harp on that anymore. It's just really, really dumb. Just, doesn't make any sense. Shifting, now isolated to screen instead of proper stalks to shift or another shift lever of some sort. Again, kind of dumb. Not going to harp on it any more than I already have from previous videos, but it just doesn't really make any sense. When I first bought the car, this car came with the stupid yoke. I was one of the first to Tesla after, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 months or something like that, after I bought my car. Tesla began offering a retrofit option for a round steering wheel. It cost me $700 at the time. I was one of the first to get it. The local Tesla service center to me hadn't done one before because I ordered it immediately after it became available. And as soon as I came in, I scheduled my service appointment, went in, they retrofitted it. They also gave me a new airbag at the time, and I got to keep my yoke, which is just a souvenir. Now it's somewhere in the house and it's just sitting around completely useless. It sucked, I still see people rolling around with that thing, and I don't know why. You people with your yokes, I will never understand. Not having access to something up top to grip causes a lot of weird issues. And you're just, I don't know. I just never felt comfortable with it. Again, I don't want to harp on that, but I got rid of that thing as soon as I could. Probably about 3 or 4 months after I paid that $700 extra to retrofit it, Tesla began offering new builds of Model S and Model X's with the steering wheel as an option and the choosable option. You could choose whether you wanted the yoke and the steering wheel. My guess is everybody figured out it was just dumb. Having a yoke is stupid and whatever. I don't know that too many people get the yokes now. Some do. I've definitely seen newer builds with yokes, but I think most people probably end up with steering wheels. I see more Model X and Model S refresh and Plaid versions with the steering wheels now than I do with the yoke. So, you know, that's a good thing. That's how humans drive. Okay, so we talked about no mechanical issues. Now let's talk about some other things that are important to longevity and durability, and that's battery. So battery, what do we make of battery life at this point? 70,000 miles in. I have about 10 to 11% battery degradation at this point. What used to be 333 rated miles at 100% has now dropped to about 299 miles of rated range at 100% state of charge. So, you know, I've lost about 30-ish, 33, 34 miles or something like that. Not a big deal, not something that you really notice on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not concerned. 10-11% of battery degradation at 70,000 some miles, it is definitely acceptable as far as I'm concerned. And I'm also one of those people that, you know, you can see my current charge limit is 85% right now. For a long time, you know, I would have had this at 95%, 97%, depending on the length of my daily commutes. You know, so I'm not one of those EV drivers that spend too much time worried about battery longevity. I know it sounds kind of weird because given how many miles I put on the car, you would think I'm the type of driver to care more about that. But, you know, life is short and I have other things I want to worry about, need to worry about, than really going to the extremes of taking care of the battery in my car. As nice of a car as this is, you just got to drive it, you know? You just got to drive it, and my advice is just don't worry about it. It's really well made, and the battery's going to last a long time, you know, 70,000 miles again, and 10% degradation. Degradation for batteries, high voltage batteries in this day and age, usually flattens and evens out. You know, you'll get that first 7 to 10% of battery degradation kind of early on in, you know, in the life of the car, maybe like within the first 30 to 40,000 miles or something like that. And it kind of just levels off. You know, obviously it's going to degrade a little bit more over time, but, you know, I bet I can go twice the amount of mileage. You know, maybe we'll see at 150,000 miles, but I would be surprised if degradation was more than like 15% or something like that. So I guess maybe check back in 2 years and we'll see if my prediction is correct, right? You know, I'm thinking battery degradation 10-11% at 71,000 miles is normal, and I'm thinking that at about 150,000 miles, I don't think I would have battery degradation more than 50%. So again, let's check back and see how it goes. Just kind of step through this stuff. Pedals and steering. So from day one, I've had acceleration on Plaid mode. I've never deviated. The first time I picked up the car, it was set to chill. I set it to sport. I took one acceleration run. It was out of this world. And at my second stoplight that I've owned this car, I set it to Plaid and I've never looked back. And, you know, it's just been there. Steering weight, I have adjusted that depending on how I'm feeling. I had that set to heavy for the longest time, but lately I've been putting it to standard or even to light. And it seems like it feels better to me there. Heavy is also okay, but, you know, just really preferences. And you do notice a difference as you step through that. Obviously, as you can see right now, I'm on standard. Suspension wise, it'll auto adjust. On the freeways, I generally set it to very low, but you have to be careful with that. And I will talk a little bit about why later on in this video as I start talking a little bit more about the very light modifications that I've done to this car. And so, you know, obviously as the car is on the freeway and it's at speed, it will lower itself. But I do always put it to very low. It's a bummer that it won't remember that every time I drive. I have to set it to very low, but, you know, that's how it goes. Active suspension dampening. This has air suspension and adaptive damping. Very, very good. You do notice the difference as you step from comfort over to sport into advanced. I generally drive on advanced, but, you know, if I know I'm going to be toting passengers around and especially long trip, I will set that to comfort. So it's in comfort right now. Charging wise, we already talked a little bit about that. Autopilot. Autopilot has been, you know, a mixed bag for me. If you have seen my past videos, you'll see that I talk about autopilot. This car came with basic autopilot. I did not splurge for the enhanced autopilot or the full self-driving at the time I bought this car. And I had basic autopilot for probably the first,
or I shouldn't say the first. I had basic autopilot for maybe 60,000 of the 71,000 miles that I've put on this car. The rest of the time, I have been trying out full self-driving. And since January of this past year, so, about 6 months ago, I started testing out full self-driving. I subscribed to it initially, and then, I had some credits. I redeemed some credits, referral credits, to get full self-driving for a few months. And then Tesla gave it to all owners for free as a trial. And now I'm subscribing to it at $99 a month, which I feel like at $99 a month, it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it when it was $199 a month, and it certainly was not worth it when Tesla was trying to charge $12,000 as a one-time, fee for full self-driving. There's numerous issues with full self-driving that you can't use it for what you want, at something that you pay $12,000 for. As you can see, even Tesla tells you now, you need to supervise it. You will have to intervene. You will have to, do things to take the car out of full self-driving, especially on city roads, definitely on highways as well. But it does a really good job. Overall, it's just not worth $12,000 or $199 a month. It's questionable if it's even worth $99 a month, but I drive so much, and some of these trips, as you've probably seen from some of my earlier videos, they could be all day long, these driving trips. And it's definitely helpful to have full self-driving, even though I'm only using it, I don't know, maybe 50% of the time on long road trips like that, if even that. I'm old school. I like driving. I enjoy all aspects of driving, so I prefer to drive myself. But having even basic autopilot and especially full self-driving definitely reduces the fatigue levels on longer trips. So not much to see on the locks, lights, displays, not much to see there. We talked about trips, so let's talk a little bit more about efficiency here. So lifetime efficiency, 333 watt per mile, which is actually exactly what Tesla forecasts, I believe, for this car. So my entire lifetime rated range and energy use is, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is exactly what Tesla had rated this vehicle for, and that is pretty good. You can see here that I've put almost 30,000 miles on, it says Pirelli Weatheractive, but it's Pirelli Weatheractive tires with Unplugged Performance 03 forged wheels, which again I'll talk about separately later on this video. It's a little bit less efficient than my overall lifetime, and we'll talk more a little bit about that later. Okay, everyone, and just like that, we are back outside now. It is actually a little bit later in the afternoon. The weather has gotten cooler, and so I'm back outside now to film the rest of this video. We talked a little bit earlier about wheels and tires, unplugged performance wheels, but let's actually talk about suspension modifications that I've done. And I guess before we get into that, it's important to talk about alignments. So about 8 months ago or so, at the time I'm shooting this video, I posted a video about the importance of getting your Tesla aligned, even if it's brand new. I'm going to recap that very briefly here. That other video is up on my channel. You can go take a look, and I encourage you to go take a look at it. That one is not that long. It's just like a 4-minute video, and I'll just do a brief recap here. So basically, when I first bought my car and took delivery of it from Tesla, I did not know it at the time, but my alignment was not really in spec, from the factory. There were a number of issues with the alignment. I could kind of tell just based on efficiency. And I could tell because my efficiency was bad. It was poor. It was high in terms of energy usage. And I knew something was wrong because that's not what the internet was telling me. The internet was telling me that a Model X and a Model X Plaid specifically should be more efficient than what I was initially seeing when I took delivery of the car. So at 1,395 miles, so less than 1,500 miles, I took my car into Unplugged Performance and I got them to do an alignment. Here is the alignment chart before and after, and you can clearly see the before is up top, number of areas in the red. I'm not entirely sure what the issue is with the camber on the left rear side. That's basically an impossible number right there. I don't think that was the correct reading from the factory, so something was probably a little bit off there that I don't know why. But regardless, you can see a number of issues immediately here. So Unplugged aligned my car, brought it within spec, and you can see the after measurements down below. So again, up top is what it was when I took delivery, and about 1,395 miles, took it into Unplugged, and the result was what you see it down at the bottom. So that alignment was done with no modifications to the car. It's just what the maximum amount of adjustment that the factory Tesla suspension for the Model X could do. And so, that there was no special parts or anything like that needed. It was just a simple alignment. And after the alignment, my Model X Plaid became efficient. The efficiency effectively normalized to what other Model X Plaid owners were reporting. And so I knew that the alignment had an impact, a negative impact. The bad alignment from the factory had a negative impact on my range. Again, not something that you really, want to see. Vehicles kind of shouldn't be delivered like this, but it is a Tesla. Unfortunately, these things are a little bit more common than they should be. And so, my tip to you is to, even if your Tesla is brand new, do yourself a favor, spend $100 or whatever it is to get it aligned. Efficiency wise, you may just see an improvement if your car was not aligned properly from the factory. Okay, so then that's the alignment. Now moving on to suspension modifications. At 18,500 miles, about 6 months after I took delivery of the vehicle, I went and back into Unplugged Performance, and I had them install their 3-way adjustable rear sway bar. That made a world of difference to the turning response of the Model X Plaid. It felt like a different car almost. Just getting the rear sway bars. Total installed for me was about $580, including parts, tax, and installation. It was quick. They did it in, I don't know, about an hour or 2 hours or something like that in real time. So, lucky enough that I'm in Southern California where Unplugged Performance is. And so I could just drive over there and get that done. But it made a huge, huge difference. If you're going to do one modification in terms of suspension for your car, get the rear sway bars. There's very little downside, if really any downside. The car becomes more responsive in every way. It becomes more stable. It's actually more comfortable and just, tied together. Just feels better, with their rear sway bar. It's hard to describe. If you've never had rear sway bar upgrades done on your cars, it's pretty standard in terms of what I'm saying. It really transforms, sway bar upgrades really transform the handling feel of the car, and in a lot of cases can add even some comfort, as well. And that is definitely the case here. My Model X became a better riding, more comfortable ride after upgrading to the sway bars, and handling performance improved just in normal day-to-day driving, but also you feel at the limit. The handling is much better. It just allows the car to put more of the tires contact patch, onto the road, generally speaking. So that was it was money well worth spent. I love that upgrade. It is the single biggest improvement I made to the car was the Unplugged Performance rear sway bars. Again, this is fairly typical for automotive fans. When you do a sway bar upgrade, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so that was the factory suspension and getting a proper alignment. Now we are going to really get into weeds here and talk nerd level 5,000 stuff. So at 41,500 miles, I took the car back to Unplugged Performance, and this time I purchased the rear camber arm set and the rear toe arm set, both billet adjustable ones from Unplugged Performance. I had them install the rear camber arms and the rear toe arms, and then I had them do an advanced spec alignment, which really what I was going for here is I wanted to have my car aligned at the very low suspension setting, very low as in the air suspension ride height. I was driving around because I do so many miles, cover so many miles in this car. You know, for efficiency's sake, I tend to almost always set my suspension ride height down to the very low setting, but that messes with your alignment. So the factory alignment is done at the low, which is the default ride height. And if you're like doing what I was doing, consistently setting the ride height down to very low, every time you do that, you're altering your suspension geometry in a way that you could increase tire wear because your alignment is effectively slightly off, right? At that point. And so I wanted to have the best of both worlds. I wanted to be able to set my ride height to very low to maximize efficiency of the car. And I also wanted to do it in such a way that did not negatively impact my tire wear. So didn't want any additional tire wear. The only way to really do that is to have your car aligned with the suspension set to very low, and then having the enough suspension adjustability for the alignment to cover that range of what you need to do. And the OEM factory suspension, rear suspension, just doesn't give you that capability to make those types of adjustments. And so that's where Unplugged Performance's billet adjustable rear camber arm set and toe arm set comes into play. And the added benefit, of course, is that both of those new suspension parts, or the set of them, I should say, because it's more than one, that set, it adds durability and reduces weight. The billet adjustable rear camber arm and toe arms were lighter than the OEM pieces that they were replacing. Obviously, the Unplugged Performance ones are way more adjustable, again, required for an advanced spec alignment like this. And, the benefit of all that is it comes with spherical bushings, which will last a lot longer than the OEM, rubber bushings. Take a look at another video that I did a couple of months back, that shows, I think I did that like 42,000 miles not long after, I had Unplugged Performance install their new rear camber and rear toe arm set. I did that video, and in that video, you can already see the OEM rubber bushings on the OEM parts start to show some like low levels of wear, and so definitely the upgraded spherical bushings that come with the upgradable suspension, should lead to increased durability there. Haven't looked at them since, so can't really tell you, at 71,000 miles, what the Unplugged Performance ones look like. Probably that's a good topic for future videos. Okay, and again, nerd level 5,000 stuff right here. So for those of you that are interested, take a look at this second alignment chart. Now, the second alignment chart was done after the new rear camber arm set and the rear toe arm set was installed, and you can see the above, the before measurement that's showing here is the car when it came in. This is what a very low suspension height alignment looks like, and you can kind of compare that, with the graph that I showed earlier, with the chart, I'm sorry, that I showed a little bit earlier. You can see there's, even though 20,000 miles or something like that, or 30,000 miles I should say, had gone by between the first chart that I showed and this chart here, you would expect the car to slowly become misaligned, just from driving just on the road. That's normal. But there's such a big delta here, though. It's not just because of normal driving. It's because on that previous chart, the alignment was done at the default, low ride height. And you can see here the before measurement is actually showing the alignment as it's at the very low ride height. So not an apples to apples comparison, but still gives you the opportunity here to see, what happens to your suspension geometry, your alignment, as you're reducing ride height. And so anyways, obviously the additional parts from Unplugged Performance allows me to bring the alignment at this very low ride height setting back more towards like we would consider in spec, right? And that is going to be much better for tire wear. And that just really leads to this next part about tires and wheels. And now let's cover that now.
Okay, so now I've raised the suspension fully here, almost in a comical manner. This is the highest setting of the suspension, and you can see there's so much wheel gap. But I'm doing this so that you could see a little bit more of the tire conditions over here. So again, these are the Pirelli Weatheractive tires with about 40,000 miles on them right now. And you can see that there's still plenty of tread over here. I will do some official measurements on tread depth using my trusty tread depth gauge in a separate video coming up here in a few weeks. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about these tires then. But I just wanted to give you a quick preview over here. You can see that these tires have held up really, really well. If we go to the rear over here, you can see that with Teslas, generally, the inner rear of both tires tend to wear really, really fast. And again, 40,000 miles on these, and it's looking pretty good. Proper tire inflation and proper alignment is key. Again, we're looking for this area here specifically is generally where Teslas, doesn't really matter what kind of Tesla you have, they generally wear excessively on the rear inner tires.
Okay, so now you see what the tires look like after 40,000 miles with these Pirelli Weatheractive tires that is on the car post the Unplugged Performance rear camber and rear toe arm installation and alignment there. Most of these miles, I would say probably 90% of the miles I've covered, since the installation and alignment has been at this very low ride height setting. And as you can see, even then, these tires, the alignment, and again, proper inflation has held up really, really well. Tire life, has been pretty much phenomenal at this point. I'm going to show you a clip here of what the OEM Continental all-season tires looks like when from the OEM, even with a proper alignment that I did, again at 1,395 miles, I was only able to get about 30,000 miles out of the OEM 20-inch Continental all-season tires before the inner rears worn down to the cords. And again, that is because we were unable initially to align this car at that very low ride height that I was driving around in. And so that's what led to, for me anyways, even with proper inflation, it led to the inner tire wear. But the inner tire wear is pretty common across all Teslas. EVs are just generally, because of the weight of the battery pack, much heavier than ICE vehicles. And as a result, the tires take a lot of punishment. In the case of Teslas, whether you have a Model 3, or a Model S or a Model X, this kind of stuff tends to happen where you'll get inner tire wear that is not that obvious when you're looking at it from the outside. Just even when you're kind of slightly underneath the car, you're bending over, you're squatting down, looking at the tires. They may look like they're in okay shape, but be careful of that inner tire wear. As you can see again, from clips and videos of my car at about 30,000 miles with the OEM Continental tires, you can see the wear there and why I had to replace those at about 30,000 miles. Okay, let's talk about my wheels here. So this car came with the OEM Tesla 20-inch Cyberstream wheels. At 41,000 miles, I replaced those OEM wheels with lightweight forged aluminum wheels from Unplugged Performance in the same 20-inch diameter as the OEM wheels. So these forged aluminum wheels are so much lighter than the OEM cast wheels. Wheels are considered unsprung weight, and reductions in unsprung weight brings noticeable benefits to performance. You'll feel the benefits in acceleration, braking, steering, and handling feel, plus improvements to ride comfort. I've driven on these for 30,000 miles now, and I can confirm that all of these benefits are very real. And also because they are so much lighter than the factory wheels, efficiency has improved as well, and that means a decrease in energy usage and an increase in range. So with the factory wheels, I was getting 344 watts per mile, and after I switched to these unplugged forged wheels, with no other changes and driving the same route, same tires, same everything, my energy usage decreased to 333 watts per mile. I definitely recommend forged aluminum wheels as a performance upgrade, but note that not all forged wheels are created the same. I always say wheels and tires are the most important things on a car because those are the only things that actually touch the ground. So do not skimp on buying quality tires. And if you want to change out your factory wheels for something else, then don't skimp on the quality, on spending money on quality wheels. EVs are heavier than ICE vehicles, and you have to make sure any aftermarket wheel you buy is well built and built by reputable wheel manufacturers and reputable factories. And importantly, make sure aftermarket wheels and tires you buy supports the load rating of your EV. When in doubt, please consult professional tire shops for this. Okay, let's move on and talk about a few other odds and ends. Tesla insurance. What the heck? We're talking insurance? Yes, we are. So Tesla started offering insurance in 2017, and by the time I got around to buying my first Tesla here in 2022, the insurance process was pretty dialed in. So just like pretty much everything else with the ordering process, you do it in the Tesla app. So between the time you order your Tesla to the time your delivery appointment arrives, you're doing everything on the app, like applying for financing, applying for insurance, choosing your vehicle coverage options, reviewing your rates and accepting that and all of that. So it's really easy and straightforward to get your insurance set up in the Tesla app. You also tie insurance payments to the credit card that you have to keep on file in the Tesla app. And so that credit card is how Tesla charges you for everything from supercharging to your monthly insurance payment. It's all just very seamless, and with the robustness of the app and the easy way to store your credit card information there, it just kind of makes you all tied into the whole Tesla ecosystem, which obviously is by design. So now the part about insurance is that we all have to have it, but you generally want it to be set and forget, right? So you hope to never have to use it. Well, I'm sorry to say that I did have to use Tesla insurance once at this point so far, hopefully for the last time, but you never know. So this incident that I'm talking about happened last winter with the car having about 45,000 miles at the time. I was on a major freeway here in Los Angeles in stop and go traffic. I was stopped, dead stop, not moving for multiple seconds, probably like 10 seconds at this point. And then all of a sudden, a car just ran into the back of me. No one was hurt. The other driver admitted fault right away. You guessed correctly. They were obviously playing on their phone and didn't react in time. I can tell because, obviously with Sentry mode and cameras, dash cam, recording and all of that, I caught the incident, with the rear camera, and I was able to, you can see his face. He just obviously was not looking when he crashed into me. So anyways, my rear bumper was damaged. One of the rear reflectors was broken. My rear hatch had a small dent, and the paint in that dent area was chipped off. So not a major accident, but it's enough. The hatch still opened and closed just fine. Nothing was kind of like hanging off or dragging on the car or anything like that. There was such a low speed bump, but it did enough damage. The final repair bill ended up coming out to be $5,600, so $5,600. That kind of tells you the extent of the damage. Really was not crazy. The process to file a claim with Tesla insurance was seamless. You guessed it, you just do that in the app. The app helps you to file a claim and guides you through the whole process of taking photos and everything like that. And so really Tesla's insurance then just went after the other party's insurance on my behalf. It was all really seamless. Only downside that I've noticed with Tesla insurance is that it's nearly impossible to get a live human on the phone. So for instance, when you do need to communicate with a human at Tesla insurance, you start with the messaging features built into the app. Obviously that's fine for a while, but then eventually you kind of just need to migrate over to emails and phone calls to talk about like some specific things, to exchange estimates, right? And things like that, PDFs, blah, 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 right? So it wasn't the worst experience in the world, but it also wasn't the best. The staff at Tesla Insurance was very courteous, very professional. They just seemed very understaffed and overwhelmed, right? So you couldn't get a hold of somebody there via voice. They would return your call. You have to leave a message. They would return your call many days later. Then of course they call you at a time where I can't pick up the phone, and I immediately when I see the missed call and the message, I go and call them back, and you just start that phone tag cycle again. So anyways, like I said, it's not the worst in the world, but it doesn't have to be this way, I guess, if they weren't so understaffed. And so that really brings me to Tesla Collision. Because of course, when you have a Tesla, you have Tesla insurance, and when you're involved in an accident, what better place to go to for repairing your Tesla than Tesla's own collision centers, right? So given that I'm in Southern California, it wasn't difficult to get to my nearest Tesla collision center. I don't know how many of those they have around. The collision center staff that I dealt with said that when Tesla first opened their collision center, 4 or 5 years ago, they opened 10 collision centers in the US around the same time. I have to imagine there's probably more than that, at this point. Who knows how many there are. But anyways, it wasn't difficult at all. Again, you just basically just do everything through the app. I just arranged to have my car dropped off, to have the estimate done while I was waiting, and then just took an Uber, back home, and they took the car in. It took them about 2 weeks from the time I dropped my car off to the time I picked it up. It was almost exactly 2 weeks. They did a great job. I have no complaints about the work or the way the collision center staff handled the entire process. But again, they also seemed a bit understaffed as well. So to illustrate my point here on Tesla Collision, Tesla Insurance, both seeming to be understaffed, let me just tell you this quick story. So Tesla Collision messaged me that my car was ready for pickup. I went to the collision center, staff walked me through the work they did. They invited me to bring the car back anytime in the next few weeks if I discovered some part of the repair wasn't done to my satisfaction. It was all very professional. They did a great job, so thankfully I didn't have to bring the car back or message the collision center about anything else. But for literally 3 months, and I'm not joking here, for literally 3 months after I picked my car up from the collision center, I was still getting random emails from Tesla Insurance checking in on the status of my repair. This was kind of comical and a little bit scary. They were checking in every few weeks, asking me if I've selected a repair facility. They would check in to see if I've gotten an estimate. They would, check in to see if it's been repaired. They would check in to see if I needed a rental car while I was waiting for repairs. They were messaging me. They were, on the app. They were emailing me. Again, not really a live person on voice, but they were messaging me every couple of weeks randomly. So now keep in mind from the very start, I was following all of the protocols and going through Tesla Insurance and Tesla Collision, right? So I was making sure I was communicating with both sides so they would know about each other, messaging both insurance and collision so they knew my claim number, knew my repair order number, and so on and so forth. So it's a bit scary that insurance would still randomly reach out to me many weeks after my repair was completed. Every time they ask me, every time they message me, they check in, they ask me, I would reply and I would copy my point of contact at Tesla Collision. I had to do this multiple times. It's been 8 months now since I picked my car up from Collision. And to this day, I could not tell you where things ended. I know I paid my deductible out of pocket initially when I dropped my car off at Tesla Collision. And because the other party in the accident already admitted they were at fault, my deductible was refunded back to me by Tesla Collision when I picked up the car. Again, I was kind of only out of, $1,000 was my deductible. I was only out of $1,000 temporarily for like 2 weeks. Other than that, they, when I went to pick the car up, they refunded me. And then I just never heard back from anyone. All I know is I didn't have to pay for any of the collision repairs. Really, at the end of the day, as long as the repair work gets done correctly and I didn't have to pay for anything, that's all I really care about, right? But I do wonder if Tesla Insurance ever got their act together and actually realized, close the repair order or the claim and kind of recover their full amount from the other party's insurance. You would think they did, but they never confirmed with me either way. So I guess we'll never know. Okay, so now let's talk Tesla service. Earlier in the video, I told you that there have been 0 mechanical issues with this car and that I haven't even bothered to change my wipers. So I've only had 3 real touch points with Tesla service. My initial service appointment happened a month after I took delivery of the car. That was free warranty work to just simply correct the cosmetic issues that I identified during the initial delivery process. I dropped the car off at the Tesla service center local to me, and they needed a full day to do the work, and I picked it up the next day. Like I pointed out earlier in the video, the work they did there was pretty much hit or miss. Some stuff they were able to fully correct, and other issues like certain panel gaps, trim issues, they were only able to partially correct. But again, cosmetic issues, didn't really care about that much. My second service appointment was a mobile service appointment, and this was to do my steering wheel retrofit so I could get rid of that terrible yoke. Tesla mobile technicians showed up with my new steering wheel to my home, and they did the work outside in the driveway for about 15 minutes or so. Nice and simple, easy to do. I was happy to get rid of that awful yoke for the steering wheel. So my third appointment then was just a standard, I'm coming up on the very end of my warranty period, so I better make an appointment to get them to handle as many annoying little cosmetic issues as possible before my warranty runs out. So again, this was just to readjust some of those panel gaps, and did some kind of trim cleanup there. This work again was pretty much hit or miss, but like I said, it's cosmetic, and so whatever. So overall, right, my experience with Tesla service is pretty meh. They've been courteous and professional, but the quality of the work just hasn't been top notch. But I'm also chalking that up to kind of the environment they have to operate in. Cosmetically, there's a bunch of just little flaws with this car. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it came from the factory. And Tesla service has probably done the best they can. Even though it's not perfect, at least when I get my car out of Tesla service, these cosmetic touch-ups that they've done have made it so that it's better than when I took it into service, better than when the Model X was first built and delivered to me from the factory. Right, so moving on from that, now here is where I do have to give Tesla a big ding, like the biggest. This is just a lack of goodwill on Tesla's part. And this really, really bothers me. So I bought this car in 2022 near the height of EV vehicle pricing. This was a very, very expensive vehicle back in 2022. Tesla then dropped the price heavily a year later in 2023, forcing an instantaneous, massive depreciation to existing owners like myself. The same car in 2023 could be purchased for nearly 60% of the price that we paid in 2022. That is a big, big difference, and it really made a lot of owners angry. Now, I'm a grown human being. I can handle things like this happening in life every now and then. But to add salt to the wound, here's what Tesla did. So a few months after I took delivery of my Model X Plaid, Tesla began building all of the new Plaids with upgraded brakes. They started, I remember I took delivery in August of 2022. And in January of 2023, they started building and shipping Model S and Model X Plaids with upgraded brakes. So the newer Plaids were being built with red brake calipers, and they came with a little bit more of a performance-oriented brake pad for better stopping power. Okay, so I missed that boat by like 4 months. Boo-hoo, so sad, nobody's crying for me. But here's why I'm mad about this. So September 1st, 2023, almost exactly 12 and a half months after I took delivery, Tesla drops the price of the Model X Plaid by 40%. And again, as I mentioned earlier, accelerating depreciation and just killing resale value for anyone that bought the car before this. Remember, this 40% discounted car already came with those better brakes too. Remember that price drop came on September 1st, 2023. 11 days later, on September 12th, 2023, Tesla sends me this email. I'm putting it on the screen right here. Let's read it together. Let's read this together. Next level brake pads, bold red calipers, get better pedal feel, braking predictability, and slower brake fade onset with a brake pad upgrade. Available for both Model S and X vehicles. A separate upgrade kit for red calipers is also now available for Plaid vehicles. Note, Plaid vehicles built from January 12, 2023 come standard with both the brake pad and red caliper upgrades. Schedule a service appointment in the Tesla app to upgrade your vehicle. Learn more, schedule button. Wow. They threw us a bone. I'm going to schedule a service appointment right away. Push that schedule button. So I did. And then guess what? Tesla messages me to confirm my appointment. And by the way, tells me it's not a free upgrade. It's going to cost me $2,700 to upgrade my brakes. Nowhere am I reading that email message as a upsell to me. Why? Probably because I'm eternally optimistic, I guess. I thought by paying for a vehicle that was 40% more than what everybody else is paying now, they would send me this email along with other owners who bought these vehicles in 2022, late 2021 when the S Plaid first went on sale. They would target us and throw us a bone. No, they didn't care about us, right? So I seriously messaged them back and I seriously asked them if they were joking, and they assured me they were not. This upgrade was going to cost me $2,700, and they asked me if I wanted to proceed. Folks, as I said at the start of this super long video, I've been driving for 30 years. I've owned 20 plus cars. Do you really think I'm going to be super inclined to buy any more Teslas in the future? No. I am going to think twice. I'm going to think thrice before I do that. This is how you lose customers, by literally telling them that you don't care about them as a customer. Okay, but like I said, we're all adults here. We can compartmentalize this. Let's go ahead and finally wrap up this video and talk about the things I like and the things I don't like after owning this Model X Plaid for 2 years and 71,000 miles. So the likes. This car is a pleasure to drive. Obviously, with 1020 HP, the power is beyond ludicrous. More power is always better. You don't have to use all that power every day, but having all of those electric horses in reserve is much better than not having them at all. Take it from me. So the brakes are totally good for normal driving, and of course with regen braking, you don't hardly ever use the brakes anyways. So even after 70,000 some miles, no danger of having to replace the brake pads anytime soon. I can probably go another 70,000 miles at this rate by the looks of the brake pads. The air suspension has been trouble-free and it's useful all of the time, every day. I find that the slightly taller ride height of the Model X is good for clearing speed bumps, driveways, and road surface changes that you just find in normal day-to-day driving. The Model X has never scraped on me before in its normal standard ride height. The adjustability of it to raise up has been helpful to get some additional ride height for those times where I've driven on gravel roads, on dirt and rutted roads, and snow-covered roads. And the air suspension makes the car very comfortable to drive and ride in. The adjustable dampers ability to firm up or soften up the ride helps a lot there. And overall, I just really like the suspension here on this car. The car has always been very stable and sure-footed in normal driving situations and in all kinds of cornering situations, even with the fully stock suspension before I modified it, and especially more so with the light suspension modifications I've done to the car. Regardless, even for a fully stock suspension Model X, for a car that weighs nearly 5,500 pounds, it just has no business being as tossable and handling as well as it does handle. So in summary, with vehicle dynamics, this car goes well, it stops well, it rides well, and it turns well. It's not the best in any of those categories, but it's the mix of all those things being so good that makes it pretty special. Even after 70,000+ miles, I still have a perma smile on my face every time I drive this. I like how roomy it is, even if I don't love the 6-seat seating configuration. Outside of the Cybertruck, it's obviously the largest Tesla, and that's true both physical dimensions and also just visually looking from the outside. But even so, when you just look at it from the outside, you can't really tell just how roomy it actually is on the inside. It just hauls kids in gear, and it hauls groups of adults around with ease. The Falcon doors make loading and unloading of people and gear very easy. And that's true especially if you have kids. Yeah, I've banged my head a few times on the Falcon doors when I've had to park in narrow places. But in those situations, at least I could get people and or cargo in and out of those tight spots that a traditional door otherwise wouldn't have made it. I like having both screens up front, the central instrument panel and the large central screen. With both screens and with the sheer size of these screens, you do get so much information and it's so easy to read. I really like the responsiveness of the Tesla human interface. It looks very high res, everything is fast and smooth, and generally the human interface and infotainment is best in class. This is the kind of stuff that Tesla really excels at. Tesla doesn't support Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but I'm one of those in the camp of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is very unnecessary here. Most car manufacturers at the moment need CarPlay or Android Auto because their own interfaces are pretty sucky. But they just want to leave it up to Apple or Google to handle a big part of the human-machine interface and infotainment. But if your machine-to-human interface and infotainment is as good as Tesla's is, then there's no need for CarPlay or Android Auto because this is better. Now, along those lines, I like the website and specifically Tesla's mobile app. If you've never purchased an EV before from an EV startup like a Rivian or a Lucid and of course Tesla here, doing so is going to seem like you've stepped into a time machine and gone to the future. You do everything on their website and in the app. Everything just guides you through. You don't really need to talk to anybody even though messaging features are there. But it's all set up to to facilitate ease of purchasing, ease of scheduling service, and just all in all, it's the best-in-class mobile app. Just like their in-car interface, the Tesla mobile app is super responsive and packed with features. You can use the app to set cabin temps, dog mode, open and close doors remotely, even if you're thousands of miles away. You can even use the mobile app to view all of the car's built-in exterior and interior cameras in real time. I really like that because it allows me to look at the interior camera and check in on the dogs to see how they're doing if I have them there in the car with dog mode on. So there's a lot to like, but there are also so many things I don't like. Let's talk about them. All the glass. I'm just not a fan of it. Thankfully, I've not had a chip or a crack in any of the glass on this car, but I know lots of other people have had those types of issues. The glass adds needless weight and it adds complexity and cost to repair and replacements. And you'd just be better off with aluminum roof instead, but Tesla doesn't give you that option. But the biggest issue with all this glass over your head is the heat and glare. There's no way around it. Even buying the sunshades like I have doesn't come close to rejecting heat the way you want it to. All this glass just needlessly heating up the interior ends up just requiring more electricity to cool it down. So all in all, it's bad for anyone living in areas of the planet that gets a lot of sun. I talked about how much I like the machine-to-human interface earlier, but there are some small things with it that really annoy me, so those qualify as dislikes as well. The biggest dislike here is just the lack of customization option for the interface. If you want to see your tire pressures, it's only accessible on the central screen, and it's buried a few menus deep. You can't keep it displayed, otherwise it takes up a huge chunk of your central screen and you just can't see much else. That's just a total fail, and it reeks of design choices made by people who don't like driving. Real-time monitoring of tire pressure is not only necessary to help drivers maximize our tire life and our mileage efficiency, but it's also paramount to safety. After 30 plus years of driving, I can say that real-time tire pressure monitoring has saved my life on more than one occasion. I've never had a tire blowout with a car that has real-time tire pressure monitoring. Many modern vehicles have real-time tire pressure monitoring, and it's fairly standard even in those cars in the $20,000 to $30,000 price range, to have tire pressure monitoring, let alone the ones that are approaching or into the six-figure territory like the Model X is. Those that do have real-time tire pressure monitoring almost always displays those tire pressures in the central instrument cluster. And almost all of them give you the ability to keep them on that central display active and on screen all the time. Tesla doesn't give you that option. As advanced as Tesla's interface is, it's infuriating that they don't give you the option to customize your display. I'm not looking to modify the whole kitchen sink. I'm only looking for some basic set of customization options, and that's just entirely unavailable with Teslas. Another big dislike is this is basically a D-content vehicle that doesn't have traditional blind spot indicators built into the side mirrors, and for its advanced driver assistance systems, it's camera only and doesn't include ultrasonic sensors. Most of these options were available in earlier Model S and Model X builds in the mid 2010s. But in an effort to really cut costs over the years, Tesla removed many of these features. So you're now paying for a six-figure car that lacks some of these basic features, that they used to have, and lacking some of these basic features that a car costing $25,000 has, like blind spot indicators. And another dislike here is the lack of storage options and seating configurations. The Plaid only comes in the 6-seat configuration. I would have opted for a different seating configuration if I had the choice. Give us the choice. That's not even something I had to learn over 70,000 some miles. I instantly knew that I didn't want a 6-seat configuration from the outset. And after 2 years of ownership, 70,000 miles, that's just proven to be correct. The 6-seat configuration and the Falcon doors means there's really no built-in storage cubby of any kind in the rear cabin. So you have to source your own solutions there for storage. None of them end up being really good in my opinion. Like a lot of other Model X owners, I've tried a lot of different interior storage configurations, buying this and that, but really none of them, really work out that well. So yeah, you can fit 4 people comfortably in the second and third rows here. But good luck to them holding on to their drinks or holding on to their devices in their hands for the entire trip, because you just have nowhere to put things. Another dislike is just the rear Falcon doors in general can sometimes be problematic. But to be fair, this rarely happens. I'm dinging it here just because you want to do work every single time. You don't want to have those rare, very rare instances where the Falcon doors either don't open at all, which happens every now and then, or it opens very slowly like what you saw at the beginning of this video. That's just not good. You just want to do work every single time. Another dislike, of course, is the fit and finish and the general build quality. They could be a lot better. You want it to be a lot better for a 6-figure car, but overall, the fit and finish and the build quality, it doesn't really impact the overall driving experience and day-to-day ownership experience, if you ask me. I don't personally care about those things, but if you're OCD about panel alignments, you're probably not going to like owning this car because there are so many of them and it's just so hard to unsee. Again, I don't really care about them, but if you're OCD, I don't know. You gotta think twice. There are other numerous small dislikes, and I'll just rattle them off quickly here. Basic autopilot is a feature that all Teslas come with. If you have BAP on and you're cruising around on the freeway and you want to change lanes, BAP will automatically disengage as soon as you put your blinkers on to change lanes. It effectively means that as soon as you go to try to make a lane change, the car instantly dumps you out of autopilot, forcing you to take over the controls, and then it effectively automatically hits the brakes for you because it lets go of the accelerator. As soon as it lets go of the accelerator at freeway speeds, you might as well be hitting the brakes because regen kicks in pretty strong. So doing that at freeway speeds is just dangerous. I'm going freeway speeds, I'm trying to change lanes, I want to change lanes. As soon as I indicate for a lane change, it dumps me out, hands the controls over me, effectively hits the brakes, right? Dangerous for me, dangerous for people around me. Just not ideal. The only reason they do this is so they can upsell you to enhance autopilot, which comes with the feature to continue to stay in autopilot even as you're changing lanes. They just want to upsell you to enhance autopilot, or full self-driving. It's just pure greed. Then another dislike is the disliking the forced inclusion of the dumb yoke and making me shell out $700 to retrofit a steering wheel. I dislike the lack of stalks and the forced use of buttons for turn signal and forced use of a tiny button for the horn. I can never find the darn horn button to hit it when I actually want to use the horn. And when I don't want to use the horn, I somehow tend to accidentally press it. Again, just stupid decisions made by very smart people who very clearly must really dislike driving. In closing here, despite all of the dislikes I pointed out, I just want to say that this is one of the best vehicles and best ownership experiences that I've ever had. I'm generally satisfied with my ownership experience. Now, would I buy it again at the deep six-figure range we had to pay for Plaids in 2021 and 2022? No, I absolutely would not do it again at that price. But at its current sub six-figure price, yes, I would absolutely consider doing this again. But that's just me, and I made this video so you can see what my experience has been like, both good and bad, and then decide for yourself. Okay, this video has gone on long enough. If you have any questions at all, just post them in the comments and I'll answer them there. Thank you all so very much for watching, and please subscribe.